have to fear is fear itself.
Franklin Delano Roosevelt was elected President of the United States 4 times, in 1932, 1936, 1940, and 1944. No other person has been elected more than twice. During his long presidency, Roosevelt led the United States through the economic depths of the Great Depression and the perilous times of World War II. To many people, Roosevelt, or FDR as the president was often called, was a symbol of great strength during those difficult times. Yet he himself had to overcome a severe physical weakness. He was born in Hyde Park, New York in 1882. In 1905, he married Eleanor Roosevelt, a distant cousin, and had 6 children, one of whom died in infancy. In 1921, he was struck with polio at his family's summer home. Damage to his legs was such that he was unable to stand or even move his legs. His back, arms, and legs became partially paralyzed. He could no longer hold a pen to write. But FDR fought back against the crippling disease. He regained use of his hands, and paralysis left his back. Many months of exercising with gymnasium equipment developed great strength in his arms and shoulders. He also swam regularly as a strengthening exercise. Roosevelt began trying to walk again despite several bad falls. His legs improved a little, but he never could walk unaided again or without leg braces. Before his polio attack, Roosevelt had been a New York State Senator, Assistant Secretary of the Navy, and an unsuccessful 1920 Democratic candidate for Vice President of the United States. After the attack, Roosevelt devoted himself increasingly to politics, along with his exercises. In spite of his handicap, he became an energetic, tireless campaigner. He was elected governor of New York in 1928 and re-elected in 1930. In 1932, he began his unmatched string of 4 victories in presidential elections. Though confined to a wheelchair most of the time, the wheelchair was not visible in photographs or newsreels, and many Americans never even realized he was crippled.
Despite FDR's setbacks, he had a magnificent impact on our nation. He managed to bring hope during a period of economic chaos and stress. The entire country could have gone down, and almost did, from an economic point. Roosevelt dominated the American political scene, not only during his 12 years of his presidency, but also decades after. FDR died on April 12, 1945. Roosevelt's death was met with shock and grief because many people believed he was part of their family. People wanted to commemorate FDR's importance. Out of many contestants, Lawrence Halpern was chosen to design the FDR Memorial. He was the perfect candidate for the job because he obtained many awards, which included the Thomas Jefferson Medal in Architecture and a medal given by the President of the United States, the National Medal of Arts. Halpern decided to design a large-scale development for the FDR Memorial. The memorial covers 7.5 acres of land between the Jefferson and Lincoln Memorials in Washington, D.C. Unlike the Lincoln and Jefferson memorials, which focus on a single statue of the president, the FDR Memorial is vast. Walls of red South Dakota granite define the memorial's outdoor rooms and the passageways connecting them. Waterfalls, quiet pools of water, in Roosevelt's own words, beautiful and seized into the granite walls by master carver John Benson, create a mood of quiet reflection. Halpern's design honors FDR by telling the story of the president and the country in chronological order. In order to do this, the memorial is composed of 4 rooms. Room 1 depicts FDR's presidency with the presidential seal by Thomas Hardy. Their first inaugural by Robert Graham illustrates Roosevelt waving from an open car. Room 2 captures the mood of the Great Depression, depicting the themes of hope, despair, and hunger. Room 3 symbolizes the tragedy of war. This room is dominated by a 9-foot-tall sculpture, FDR and Fala, his dog. Room 4 mourns Roosevelt's death. A dramatic waterfall symbolizes peace at the end of World War II. The room also includes a carved timeline of landmark events in FDR's life. Even though it took 50 years to settle on the design of FDR's memorial, the $52 million park was dedicated by President Clinton on May 2, 1997. This was the first memorial to be accessible by wheelchair. Halpern designed the memorial in a way that most components are symbols for Roosevelt's impact during his terms in office. In the first room of the memorial stands a sculpture by Robert Graham named the First Inaugural. According to Washington Post, this 30-foot bas relief represents optimism and new beginnings in the midst of the Depression. FDR waves from an open car during his first inaugural parade. The 5 men in a bread line symbolize the poor state the nation was in during the Great Depression. Roosevelt's New Deal promised a transformation, and the people looked up to him because they were desperate during the difficult times. He helped out many people in need and pulled the country out of its financial disaster. Halpern wanted people to see that Roosevelt did indeed keep his promise, and therefore the country was brought out from a terrible state. The FDR Memorial includes one main motif, waterfalls, each representing a different era to symbolize the upcoming war and Roosevelt's death from polio. Each of the 4 rooms representing Roosevelt's terms in office contains a waterfall. According to a travel guide by Mobile Reference, as one moves from room to room, the waterfalls become larger and more complex, reflecting the increasing complexity of a presidency marked by the vast upheavals of economic depression and World War. As a president, Roosevelt had a very complex task because he began his term during the Great Depression. There were many obstacles he had to face in order to please the people. The designer uses the waterfalls as a motif to show the progress of Roosevelt's presidency. The noise from the waterfalls increase throughout the memorial. As people walk along, the waterfall grows larger and louder in volume, symbolizing the approaching pain of war and ultimately Roosevelt's death. Without the reoccurrence of waterfalls, the designer would not have been able to show the different elements of Roosevelt's term as a president. The designer uses the massive size of the memorial to persuade us that Franklin Delano Roosevelt was a very important man who influenced the nation in an unforgettable way. The FDR Memorial is unlike most memorials. According to Carrie Carpenter, an enthusiast of the FDR Memorial, rather than being a single structure, the memorial stretches along the tidal basin with 4 outdoor rooms or galleries, one for each of Roosevelt's terms in office. No other memorial is composed of so many features. Halpern designed 4 gigantic rooms because he wanted to memorialize Roosevelt's 4 terms as president, because he was the only president to serve that many terms. Carpenter also states, in order to capture the entire area of FDR's presidency, landscape architect Lawrence Halpern designed a sprawling tribute over 7.5 acres of land. The memorial is more than several times bigger than any other memorial built in honor of a person, symbolizing the importance of FDR. The overall sense of the memorial can be overwhelming, but the designer wanted to appeal to our emotions to depict the importance of Roosevelt. The designer Halpern incorporates symbolism, motif, and pathos to show the viewers that Roosevelt left a mark on the nation, bringing hope and optimism during a very difficult time. People are thankful for his support and his motivation to change the country. Franklin Delano Roosevelt was a very unique person, because of the fact that he changed the nation and younger generations should never forget him. Before I started this project, I only knew that Roosevelt was a president, so you can say I learned a lot. I believe that the memorial is still relevant today. It helps people learn who FDR was and how he changed the nation, because we can still see his impact till this day.